Great, so my name is Daniel McNally. I'm here to talk about incident trustless exchange of digital assets and how we're using that at Exchange Union. So the current ecosystem of cryptocurrency exchanges, you can see there's a lot of different exchanges. They're in different jurisdictions. They're in different countries. Right now, and the number is growing every day. And this presents several pain points. So if you are a smaller exchange or a newer exchange, you have issues with getting liquidity on your exchange. If you want to add a new trading pair, you're also starting from scratch. You need new liquidity for that. If you're a user, it's hard to find the best price. And if you do want to find the best price, you might need to have multiple accounts on multiple exchanges. And if we're talking about moving funds from one exchange to the other, that is a lengthy process. It requires confirmations. It has fees. It's not great. It's inefficient. So our vision is to build a decentralized network that connects cryptocurrency exchanges and allows them to share their orders with each other and allows them to actually swap the digital assets in real time without requiring any trust. So there's three main components to this. The first is a decentralized order book. You want to know about the other orders in the network, the orders that exist on other exchanges. There are payment channels. So payment channels is a way to transact off-chain. It allows you to transact instantly, and it scales much better than on-chain transactions. And lastly, there are atomic swaps. Atomic swaps is how you can trade one thing for another and make sure that there's no counterparty risk. That if I send you Bitcoin and you send me Litecoin, both sides of the trade happen or neither side happens at all. So that's how this can be done trustlessly. So we're writing this software. It's called Exchange Union Daemon. It's designed to be decentralized, which means that any exchange or any participant in this network can download it and run it for themselves. Exchange Union is not there to act as a middleman or a custodian of funds. This is all peer-to-peer, exchange-to-exchange. So let's walk through a quick sample trade. So we have Exchange A and Exchange B. They have payment channels with each other, one in Litecoin and one in Ethereum Classic. Exchange A has a customer who wants Ethereum Classic. Exchange B has a customer who wants Litecoin. They can find a match with the global order book and actually perform this swap in real time. And the exchange can be filled. The customer on Exchange A gets his Ethereum Classic. He doesn't even need to know about Exchange B. He just traded with a customer over there. So let's go a little bit more into detail into payment channels and the atomic swap. So what is a payment channel? What does it do? As I said, it enables instant off-chain transactions. The off-chain transactions, even though they're off-chain, they actually inherit these important qualities: finality, censorship resistance, and trustlessness of the underlying blockchain. Payment channels are typically between two parties, but they can be routed across multiple channels. And if you've heard of the Lightning Network, that's basically what it is. It's payment channels and being able to route payments through multiple channels. What a payment channel actually is it's a 2-of-2 multi-sig address. So that means that there are actual funds on-chain and that no party can spend from this address without the consent of the other parties. That's how we can make sure that there are no double spends. There are commitment transactions that track the balance of the channel, how much of the funds in this channel are going to each party involved in the channel. When you have a payment, all you do is you create a new commitment transaction and invalidate the old one. But you don't have to broadcast this transaction, and that's what's key. That's what makes this off-chain. The commitments themselves are signed contracts, so they are valid transactions on the blockchain. And if at any point, if the other party becomes uncooperative, you can broadcast this transaction and actually get on-chain funds. It's enforceable by the almighty blockchain. The analogy I like to make to real world is you can have contracts, regular contracts in the real world. I will pay you $100 next month. And if it's signed, you can, I'm not cooperating, you can go to a court, small claims court, and get it enforced. Writing a contract is easy and it's private. Nobody else needs to know about it. But if we actually have to go to court to enforce it, it's a messy process. It takes time, and now it's public. So this is, I think, kind of the analogy here: off-chain and on-chain. Going to court is broadcasting the transaction, and it doesn't scale very well. Just like it wouldn't scale very well in the real world if everyone had to go to court every time they want to enforce a contract. Atomic swaps. What does the atomic mean? It means that a transaction is all or nothing. Every part of the transaction happens or none of it happens. Lightning Network, as I said, chains transactions across a single blockchain such that if A wants to pay C through B, we can make the payment from A to B contingent on the payment from B to C. But these transactions can also be chained across blockchains. You can have two entirely different blockchains and still make payments between the two contingent on each other. And another thing here is most people are familiar, regular cryptocurrency transaction or Bitcoin transaction. The transaction becomes valid as soon as it's signed with the private key belonging to that address. But we can make transactions contingent on both the signature and knowledge of a hash preimage. So that means essentially not only does this transaction have to be signed, but you need to give me the preimage that hashes to this hash value. All transactions within a particular swap depend on the same preimage. That's the key here. Once the preimage is broadcast, it activates all parts of that transaction. So a quick example here, Alice creates the preimage and hashes it. She signs a transaction, paying Bitcoin to Bob, and she gives the transaction to Bob. Bob can't claim this transaction because he doesn't know the preimage. But now what he can do is he can create a Litecoin transaction to Alice and use the same hash lock. So when he gives it to Alice, for Alice to claim it, she has to broadcast it along with her preimage. That's step 3 here. Once that preimage is broadcast, now Bob knows it. Now Bob can claim the Bitcoin transaction that was sent to him. The nifty part here is we can actually do all of this within payment channels. If we craft the transactions such that they are part of the commitment transaction, once we have all these transactions crafted, Alice doesn't have to actually broadcast the preimage. She just reveals it to Bob privately. And instead of, again, going to the blockchain, this expensive, slow process, they just update their commitment transactions. If you don't believe me, we actually have a demo of this, a working demo. You can go to our blog, check it out. You can actually do this yourself. We have a Bitcoin to Litecoin swap. We have detailed steps. Anyone can try it for themselves. And it's really nifty. It's still early technology, but it works, and there's this working proof of concept. So again, the industry benefits here that exchanges who participate in this network have access to larger user base, larger liquidity pool, more volume, more trades. For users, that means they have tighter spreads, they get the best price, more trading pairs, and they only need to have an account with one exchange. You don't need to have 10 different accounts. Again, our project is completely open source. We are following the open source philosophy. All our software is open source. Our design even is open source. And we're using open source projects as well, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Lightning Network. And so we have, I think we're unique in some ways. We are not a blockchain. We are not an exchange. What we're looking to do is really build this infrastructure. We're also not ICOing. We're none of these 3 things. So we're trying to build cool software. I encourage anyone who's interested, again, check out our blog, check out our GitHub. We are always looking for feedback, code contributions, design contributions, ideas, and so on. And yeah, I guess let me go back here. That's my speech.